So all three of you have obviously a very huge body of work under your belts. Before we get to the audience, I'd like all three of you to comment on each other's work. Let the two Saurabhs speak to each other.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, sure. Should we answer that first?
Yes, please, absolutely.
No, I think it was very interesting, I think, to see in Saurabh's work how simple everyday objects actually, the forms can become so much more dynamic than what you're really used to seeing. I think my favorite out of all I saw was definitely the Patiala peg. I think it's a great solution and a very nice looking solution too. And also the glasses, maybe the glass which had the light shadows falling on the body. The only question that came to my mind when I saw that was where do you house the power source for the light in those glasses? It just be batteries, small batteries. Okay. Yes, that was
great.
Yeah.
I think a couple of projects which were exciting. I think the good thing about their work is that they've used materials in a very nice way. I think that came out very strongly. Whether it was projects for the steel company or whether the use of colored concrete, wood. So I think using material appropriately probably kind of brings in value and experience. And I think I like the project where they had used the form which kind of twisted, and just because of the overhang they could create the difference in silhouette, but the basic structure remained. I think that's a very innovative solution. And for people outside, it just looks so complex and so kind of meticulously done, and looks very beautiful. And I think your first couple of projects where the landscape, the landscape which gets into the building, comes out of the building. I think that was pretty fresh. I haven't seen much of that. So I guess I think the body of work is pretty big, and I think they've done justice to the brief which they've got, and I think that's the most important thing in terms of creating value for the client.
Sonali, any comments from your side?
I loved the glasses. I would have a pair if I could.
Ketan, I think that's a hint to you.
No, I think I liked some of your home stuff. It was very nice. And I was just saying that instead of paying a fortune at Alessi, why can't we buy stuff from you?
Okay, audience questions. So while the audience is warming up, a couple of questions from my side. Saurabh and Sonali, first for you guys. Well, obviously it seems as if you have a very large firm. How do you manage to keep the design content fresh and with such a big firm? So how do you structure your practice?
Actually, the firm is broken into teams. We have, I think, 3 teams on the interior design side and 5 teams on the architecture side. And but I think that's more just a structural thing. I think the important thing is that the problem with this is that sometimes it sort of then would break into 8 different firms.
Sure.
But we've not allowed that to happen. We are constantly sort of questioning what the other teams do, and we sort of have a practice whereby on a regular basis, one team every week sort of presents a project to the other teams, and the other teams critique that project. So even though there may be a particular team working on a particular project, they have the benefit of 7 different teams critiquing it also. So I think that helps to sort of keep the designs fresh and sort of alive on all the teams.
Chetan, for you, how difficult is it to practice industrial design in India?
No, it's very difficult. I think for people who want to create objects, I think the biggest concern is manufacturing. A lot of things which I do, I have to send it to China to get it prototyped or get it done, because unfortunately here, the vendors typically do not understand design. So, like I just cited a small example where I created the skull and I send the 3D data to the vendor. Can you mill it for me? And because I want to use it as a basic pattern to create the mold. So when I sent the data, he called me back and he said, "Sir, data में problem है. ऐसे ना edges आ रहे हैं. आप ठीक वाला data भेज दो." So it's like, so that was the point where you realize that there is still a lot of long way to go. But I think I hope things could be better because for manufacturers, I think at the moment creating cash is probably more important than kind of getting into a project which would give them some kind of exposure into a new dimension to creating products. So I think that is the challenge at the moment.
So what is the advice you'd like to give to young budding industrial designers?
I think the most important thing for any young designer is to create his own style. I think that's very important because I think it's good to follow a certain set of designers probably earlier initial in your educational time, but eventually as long as you don't create your own style, I think things will just fall apart. So I think it's important to understand your style and appreciate your style rather than actually looking at others, because everybody has a style. So it's important to understand that style and then actually nurture it to create a distinct style of themselves, and that will be the best thing to do.
Actually, we have a comment here to begin with and a question there.
Yeah, there's a question.
I have a question to that, to style, because isn't the customer the one who has the style? I need to follow the customer while working.
I do not deny that customer is not the one for whom you're making the product, but I think there are two perspectives. When you do incremental design, you need to take input from the consumer, and of course you will create an incremental solution from what is existing. But when you have to do a disruptive product, sometimes you do not need to ask the consumer, because what happens is you as an individual are also a customer, right? You're on the same planet, you are using the same thing. So if I'm probably designing a washing machine or a microwave oven, I'm also a user. So as a user, you probably design the product, but there would be some nuances which come from the consumer. That's what I'm trying to say, that depending on the project, you can keep the consumer strongly in mind, or you can keep the consumer slightly away and you give a new clear direction. Because sometimes asking the consumer, like there's a very popular saying, when Ford created the first, I think everybody knows this example being a designer, that when he was asked, if he was asked what would be the next, vehicle, people would have said they would want a faster chariot or a faster horse. But when the car came by and we said, oh, that's cool. So sometimes asking the consumer doesn't result in a great product. So that's the kind of cliche here, that you need to be very clear that whether you're doing an incremental design or you're doing a disruptive design.
No, I agree with you. I think I think the point you're making is that there's a huge difference between customer and customization. And Ford, in fact, said that you could have any color of car you like as long as it's black. And that's how the revolution took place. Yeah, we are in actually a forum here where we realize the designer leads because they have a instinct or an internal ability to see what a customer requires much before the customer actually anticipates it.
True, very true.
And that I can see in a lot of your work. But my questions to the wonderful den you created for the lawyers. I forget the name of the company.
Yeah, it's
Malik Chand or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful den. Tremendous. Just the pictures, of course, but there's this huge experience of lawyers looking at art, and there is a certain amount of mystique about it. In comparison, I thought the PVR guys were rather staid, isn't it? They look like the PVR, the cinema guys. They're little boxes and with a little cafe. Why is there something the matter with the way we see cinema today, which is boom time in India apparently, but our cinema halls are staid as hell. Perhaps they should be taken to the lawyers now.
You know, this was the PVR that was their first in this format. And they were actually not sure what they wanted. So while we experimented with various sort of design approaches, they just wanted to go very, very, let's say, safe on the whole thing.
Yeah,
and that's why they actually chose something which was, in my opinion, a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Where you can't, it's like beiges and browns and travertino, you cannot go wrong. I mean, it'll be forever. So that is what they actually chose, because they wanted to be really safe on their first attempt. So I guess that's...
In fact,
and as far as the law firm is concerned, I think they just trusted me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's where the customer and the customization matter comes through. I like what you had, the film running on the spool inside the director's cut auditorium. You know, the film running on the spool. You had spools here. But I'm a member of one of these director's cuts, and you know, you can't call it a director's cut and give me a cafe which looks like a square box. I mean, really, it doesn't really work for me. And how's the salt pepper doing at the moment? Are you selling enough pieces?
Yeah, they're fairly doing good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I thought you could you know, aesthetically raise it a bit. It just looked like a switch, you know. You could put some Indian elements on it and say, too much salt, not good for you. Go for pepper instead.
You can do that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lakshmi, I had a question for Chetan. At the back again. Chetan, so now you was talking about how the final design products, so to say, are very close to the initial visualizations. I wanted to know, what is your approach? How close is the final product to your prototype? Or do you try to stray away from it, or do you try to stay as close to the original idea as possible?
No, I think when you're conceiving a product, I think it's important to maintain the design intent, because there are certain elements which came together in a certain way for it to look good, or to the way it actually functions. So I think once you freeze the design, I think it's very important